Today, we speak with Laura Holland, who is a great engineer, but then found herself as a business owner with all of the confidence, all of the challenges, and all of the prosperity that that brings.
Surface, Laura's one thing is business planning, but actually, this episode is about confidence, staffing, saying no, and learning how to lead a business that's already proving it can work.
Because sometimes the issue that you're facing isn't that the business isn't growing.
It's that the business is growing and you haven't quite caught up with it yet.
Let's go. So, Laura, start us off by telling us what is your what one thing?
It's my one thing today is going to be all about business planning. I think my business coach might have a laugh at this one, but I do think it's something that has been drilled into me and I don't think I've been very good at it. And I think at this point now, 5 to 6 years in, it would have really, really benefited me if I'd kept up with business planning, I would say, not just doing that business plan right at the beginning and thinking you've ticked the box and moving on, but actually thinking about how things have changed throughout that year and continually kind of manipulating that plan to make sure it's more reflective rather than a kind of historic document that you've produced at the beginning.
Absolutely love that. I mean, one of the things with business plans is we tend to review them once a year, don't we? We write it all down. We have the huge effort that we're going to do a business plan. And then in a year's time, we go, oh, they were really good ideas.
Yeah.
At what point, or what was the point of realization that the business plan was so important and that it needed to be a living, moving document for you?
I'd probably say now, actually. I think sort of the way I started out, it was a bit haphazard, and it was a little bit, just reaction. I got to that first year and I was like, I've done this. I've survived. I've done that first year. I've made a profit. And there was an element where I then went, well, God, what do I do now? So I got involved with a business coach who got me to do a business plan. And it was a 1 year plan and a 5 year plan. And it was all the right things. And it took me 6 months to do. And by the time I'd actually done it, I was like, yeah, tick, done it. But now I'm 5 years in and I've lost that plan, which isn't a great thing anyway. And I just think if I'd had it and if I'd kept changing it every year, if I'd kept checking in with it, like I know I should have done, it would have been one of those things that I could have foreseen maybe sort of as things were manipulating and changing, that I could have maybe reacted a bit better. I think for me, it's staffing is the big thing. It was always kind of making sure that staff kept up with how we were doing as a business. And I think I wouldn't say that the business plan would have solved that problem for me, but I think it would have helped me to kind of watch it as it started to creep in a sense, as our workload crept and our staff either sort of didn't change or the attempts that we made to make it change didn't work out. And it's that kind of that continual check-in, I think, with that plan would have helped me to kind of foresee maybe where we sit now, where we are. We're doing really well as a business, but there's a lot of very busy people behind the scenes. And that could have helped us a bit more, I think.
I think staffing as you grow is one of the biggest challenges of growing businesses because it's always the chicken and egg situation, isn't it? Of
Yeah.
when is the right point to take somebody on? What role does that person need to fulfill? What skills do they need to have? What level are they at? And so on and so forth. And you never quite have, bringing it to accountancy, you can never quite have a full portfolio of clients to bring somebody in and go, there you go. You're absolutely paying for yourself. You've always got to take that risk of invest the team and the business as it grows. What in the business plan, what kind of things did you do or put into it to help navigate that piece?
So the way we sort of worked it is that it's a bit like an orbit in a sense. So we started with where we were now in the centre and then worked out. And we had sort of, well, about 5 branches. It had staffing and over premises. I don't think what the other things that I should know because I've literally just done it. And it was a really good exercise that kind of made you think, well, actually, if I want to hit whatever turnover, then I'm going to need this many staff and I'm going to need that many clients. And it was, so in a sense, it should show how you should grow as a one being. But I think I was probably not very realistic with our turnover. And I think with that surprise came how much a small team could create. And I think that was where for me, it all started to tumble in a sense. And I think once again, as I say, if I checked in and gone, right, actually, do you know, with 4 people, we've achieved over £1 million turnover, which is insane. You go, actually, yes, that's 4 very busy people rather than, 5 to 6 people that got much better work-life balance. And it's that resilience, I think, in the team that's really hard to predict. And I think for me, probably it's an element of confidence. And I never thought we would get to where we are with the people that we had. Obviously, I'm not saying that my team's bad at all, because they're amazing, but you just don't realize what people can do, I think, until you're suddenly achieving it. And I think that's where it's just sort of hit us that, now we're breathing hard. We've got a kind of a lot of expectation. I think it's those growing pains as a new company that you always feel, because you're a bit concerned to jump too early and bring people in when the work's not there. But then the work's suddenly there, and then you don't have enough people, or you don't have the right skills. And I think in engineering, that's a big thing. There is a shortage of people in engineering, and I think we're probably feeling that now. And we've kind of started to try every branch, really. So we've tried bringing seniors in to try and help the team quickly, which doesn't help sometimes, because seniors can kind of have their own way of doing things, and to small new companies, it's maybe harder to gel. Or you bring young people in and they don't have the work ethic of someone that's, been slugging it for 10 years and is sort of pushing everything they can. So it's one of those weird, I think every business, every industry probably feels it, and it's every way you can try and navigate it and watch it to make sure that maybe, yes, you do start saying no to work a bit sooner than you thought you would, because you are hitting that bit that you should be in, that perfect bubble that you should be in. And I think saying no is the hardest thing to do as a young company, because you always think that one thing you say no to is going to lead into 20 other things. And what have you let go at that point? That's literally me every day. And I think that's where I say it kind of all comes back to confidence again. It's having that confidence. You can say no, but people are still going to come and say hello and ask you for a piece of work.
I think it's a growing pain of small businesses. 4 staff, we're very similar ourselves. Everything is golden until 2 staff suddenly have holidays or sickness at the same time. And then it's, how do you back that up? I suppose my question to you is, how often do you now review the business plan, and how involved are your staff? Or do you have peers that you go to? Or do you review it with a business coach or something different?
So I'm probably checking with it about every 6 months. And I do it. I'm really lucky, actually. I've got a really, really great colleague that has been working with me now for about 3.5 years. And he comes to business coaching with me. So I've created a team. So I've got a brilliant business coach I've been working with him now for nearly 5 years, to give me direction and to, make sure I'm doing what I should be doing. And then Joshua I work with, he is also very involved in it now, because it was one of the things that he wanted to do. He didn't just want to be a member of staff. He wanted to be in assistance with as the team grew and the company grew, which was brilliant. Because that is the one thing I think sometimes when you start on your own, it can be quite a lonely place, and just having a few people to make you feel a bit more accountable to is really necessary.
It is. And if somebody's listening and where do they start with doing a business plan? So I loved the orbit description, because I've never heard it described like that before. I think that's really useful, but I think it's quite a daunting thing to sit there and go, right, I'm starting a business, I'm going to do a business plan. Because at that point, you do know things, but there's a lot you don't know. And I think sometimes, or what I see happening with clients sometimes when they're really on in business, is they don't know how to, what's the right words? They don't know how to get it out of their head and put it down onto the paper. It feels too overwhelming. It's too difficult to do. So they just put it to the side. Do you have any kind of thoughts around that, or things you can share that might help them?
Well, I would say that is definitely me, really. I think I generally always get daunted by the task. And I think retrospectively looking at it, I think it's a bit like when you write a letter. Or for me, when I have to write a report, you just need to write something. Get something on the paper, so it removes that kind of daunting element of a blank piece of paper looking at you. And just remember that it's not solid. So business is fluid, the world is fluid. So remember that you can write down those 5 years, write what you think or where you believe your expectations will take you, and then know that you can check back in. Know that within 6 months, within a year, go back and just scribble over it. And in a sense, it might actually be a bit therapeutic for you, because you can either go, do you know what, actually, I smashed that and I got that bit before I thought I would, or actually I've achieved that in a way I didn't think I was going to achieve it. So how can I push that in for next year? And I think it's a continual reflection, I think, being a business owner. I think no one tells you that until you're in it. It's a bit like having a baby. No one tells you how to look after a baby until you're suddenly up at 3 a.m. in the morning, not knowing what you're doing. And you realize everyone is sat there the same way. I think business is exactly the same in the sense that we all deal with it slightly differently, but actually it's not solid, something that changes and we have to change with it. And I think that's probably the best thing to do is, make sure that those expectations might change. What you want to get out of the business might suddenly change within 6 months because a personal reason, a personal circumstance has changed. And that's a great thing. That I think that's the best thing you can do is just keep slightly manipulating, slightly tweaking it. And hopefully that will take the pressure off the initial task because that, no one's grading you. You're not going to get told off because you haven't got to where you thought you were going to get to in 5 years, because you might have actually excelled in a different way that was never expected 5 years ago. And that's, I think it becomes it's a plan, but it's also a bit of a history. And I think that's one reason why I got quite sad I lost my first one, because it would have been brilliant to look back and go, what? That's what Laura thought in 2020 she was going to do, and look at her now, sort of thing.
I think it's also phenomenal on that you think I'm going to get, I don't know, £100,000 worth of sales. And then you go, okay, let's break it down month by month. Okay, right. So I said 200,000. So what does that equal in a year? I don't know what that is, about 16, I guess. What am I going to do to achieve 16K of sales? Okay. Well, actually, realistically, if I'm starting it today, the first month I'm probably going to get no sales because I've got this highly ambitious email campaign. It's probably going to be a 90-day. And the beauty for me is when you look back on 6 months, you can either say, yes, I executed that and it was another terrible idea, which a lot of my sales plans are, or no, I didn't execute it. And do you know what? I'm still in the same situation. So why on earth did I not execute it? That level of accountability I'd love. What made you reach out to a business coach and then go down that route of writing a business plan?
So for me, because I actually started the business quite young, and it wasn't something I'd planned for. So for me, it was I needed someone to kind of support me and give me a bit of vision, because I'd never been in management. I'd never managed anyone. I was working in a team of 3 people. So I'd been in a small team. So I hadn't taken those steps that I might have done if I'd stayed in a larger engineering consultancy, where I would have become a project manager, then I would have become a team lead. Like I didn't do all those steps. I went from being an engineer to having a consultancy. And I think for me, my first target was to survive, and I did that. And I got to that first year, and I was like, brilliant. But I always wanted the company to be something. It wasn't a retirement plan for me. I was 29, so I couldn't just keep just paddling along. I had to make sure that it turned into something to give myself some justification and to, I don't know, show people what I could do, I guess. So I kind of thought that, I don't know everything. And very early on, I always knew I didn't know everything. So I thought, who knows best? And I was really lucky to kind of stumble across a brilliant business coach in Matlock. Sadly, he's now stuck with me, and I'm not leaving ever, because he's now also, I feel, my therapist, because I just didn't want it to be a company that, was, I don't know. I didn't want the company to just be a retirement plan. This is now my life for 20 years at least. So I wanted it to be something that other people wanted to come and join. We can keep doing this great thing that we're doing. And I just felt I needed guidance to do it. And that's where I reached out to a business coach who then put me on the path of business plans and put me on the path of sort of how to go about recruitment and sales and marketing and all those things that were things I don't know about. I'm a chartered engineer. I don't know about business. I don't know about people management. I don't know about, communication skills of different elements of sort of society. It's one of those things. I think the biggest thing you can do when you start out and as you continue through is remember you don't know everything. There's a lot of people out there that are experts in areas that you don't have to be an expert of. You have people that do HR. You have people that help with business management. You have accountants. You have financial advisors. You own a business because you are good at whatever that business is to do with. It doesn't mean that you are a great business owner and a great sort of human resources manager and all those types of things. So I think that was where for me it was my next step, really. It would have been the training I might have got somewhere else as I sort of progressed through a company, but that wasn't my path, really.
It's really interesting because I think you've done phenomenally well. You've talked a couple of times about confidence, because that is something I think affects every business owner at some point, whether it's there at the beginning or as you're on the journey. What do you do anything to help with that? Have you done any any work around that? Obviously, I think working with your business coach has probably helped a lot, but is there anything else that you could share?
I would say, well, yeah, I think my business coach has been the sort of biggest one for me, and also the businesses I've met along the way. I think it's quite interesting the community you kind of fall into, and you realize actually there's a lot of people running small businesses that feel exactly the same way as you. And I think, weirdly, going to networking and things like that, they can be horrific when you first walk in, but half the time you find someone you're quite akin to. You might not do business with them, but actually it's like a 10-minute therapy session because you suddenly realize that you both feel the same way about something, or, you actually maybe have exactly the same staffing problem, but in completely different areas. And I think it's been eye opening for me, probably. For me, I would say confidence wise, it has just come with time. I wouldn't say there's anything I've done specifically. And I think there probably could have been some elements that I could have that sort of taken on. I've genuinely always thought a little bit about going to therapy because who knows why I'm wired like this. But I think it's people, and people have always been my kind of resource, really. I think it's getting support from them. I've got great support from family and friends. Sadly, I need people to tell me that I'm doing well because I don't realize until sort of someone kind of mirrors it into me. And I think it's taken me. People have been saying it to me for a while, but I'd say, yeah, probably this 5-6 year mark is where I've gone. Actually, do you know what? I think I'm doing all right. I think I can do this. So I would have liked it if that had come sooner, but then actually, if it had, would that have changed the path? I don't know. And that was the hardest thing about this one thing. It was like, actually, there's lots of things that I could have done differently, but I'm so happy with where I've ended up that I think there's not much I would have wanted to change, really.
So you've led a relatively typical kind of path, I think, which is brilliant engineer, great at what you do, and then all of a sudden the reins of owning a business are thrust upon you. And I think a lot of people will resonate with that. So they've listened to it, they think, you know what, I'd love to emulate what Laura's going to do here. What are the steps along the path? Let's say that they can't afford a business coach at the moment, or they're still dipping their toes in the water of business coaching. What would you recommend as step one? Is it a 5-year goal, a 1-year goal? Is it just get a piece of paper and start scribbling? What are the kind of steps that you would say to them? Okay, right, starting tomorrow, here is how to emulate the phenomenal success of Laura. Let's go.
I would say I'd go right back to basics and I'd start with a vision board. I would literally just go, what do you want to get out of this? And my one thing that has always been sat on my imaginary vision board, I do know a few people that have physical ones, and I'm actually quite jealous, is a work-life balance. That was the big thing for me. I was starting out a business with no family, and now a very young family. And that was one thing I didn't, because owning a business wasn't my plan. I didn't want the business to stop me doing what I wanted to do. And so stubbornness is a great thing to have as well. But I think just first off, just have that vision board. Go, do you know what? After 3 years, I want to have a Porsche. I want to have, anything, just doesn't need to be sort of very regimented or anything like that. I would say just make it you. And the more you can make your plan you, the better, because the better you're going to do at achieving it. If you try and manipulate a plan as you're told online, or even as a business coach might tell you, sometimes it's not your path, I would say. So I would say just bring it right back to basics and go, what do you want out of it? Is it a work-life balance? Is it X amount of money? Is it to be able to go on holiday for 3 months a year? And that can make that, in a sense, say when you want it to happen, but it might come early, it might come later, but that could be a starting point. Then I'd bring it to that 5-year plan, really, actually try and hone it in slightly into what a business coach would tell you to do. Thinking about your premises, your staffing, your turnover, clients is a big one for us, ways of marketing. I'd say those are the 5 main things that I would always think about. Make it 5 years just to give yourself an ability to start to stage it and then scale it to that 1 year. And that's that, in a sense, I think starting with a fun task of just thinking of your vision and then bring it into something slightly more structured will help. And then just remember that that isn't solid. You can change it. You might suddenly meet someone who's got a car you really want and you go, actually, I don't want that Porsche anymore. I want that. So, it can always slightly tweak, or you suddenly find this great office space. You go, do you know what? That's where I want to be. And just know that, you can throw that into your year number 3. Doesn't matter when you did your plan. And I think it is just it's allowing yourself to think of everything as a work in progress. I hate it when you see it on a file that says WIP, but I think actually life is a work in progress, and tweaking yourself to how things are changing is a massive thing. And that will help you go a long way, I would say.
I'm gonna be horrific here, Laura. I am gonna one up you, and I'm
Okay.
gonna say the journey is the goal. And I think that's what you've
Yeah.
just explained there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
look, the goals need to be there, but the journey really is the goal, because we only get to be on this planet one time.
Well, and I think as well, like the journey is the long bit. Who knows how long we're going to be at the end of it for? I think we need to make sure we're enjoying this first bit as much as we possibly can. I think probably having young kids has been a big thing for me, because at the moment I am their complete orbit. And, you've got to remember that they're not going to care in 5 to 10 years or however long. So I think business is the same. It's that journey. It's making sure you're there to tend to it and you're part of it, and it's tweaking and changing how you want it to. But knowing that you never know what the outcome's going to be, really. You can have some goals, and I'm in full appreciation of people that are so strict on things and they go, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And that's just not my personality. And I think there's a lot of people out there where having a business and not having that type of persona is actually quite scary, because you maybe don't have the biggest of drives in the sense of an outcome, but actually your drive to get wherever you're going to go is just as high as theirs is. And I think that's something that should be triumphed more than anything, rather than kind of put to the side.
I think I heard somebody say the other day about the journey is the goal piece. They said, actually, you want a journey to be straightforward. So I always say the adventure is the goal, because in life and in business, you never know what's going to come around the corner. And I thought that's quite a nice way to put it there. And I think that's probably a good point to wrap up. I think you've shared so many interesting things that reflect a true business journey. And it really does. I think it's quite incredible what you've achieved in 5 years. And I think all of the things that you've shared around the vision board and then do the plan. And the thing that kept coming to me when you were just talking about that bit is dare to dream, because I think sometimes we stop ourselves a bit, don't we? So thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me. I think that's maybe one of I'm not great at dreaming. As my husband says, I'm far too practical. I always think the worst is going to happen, and I think maybe that's helped me potentially, because I'm always ready with plan B. But no, thank you so much for having me.
So, Laura, I'm sure that everybody listening will have really enjoyed this. Who is your ideal client profile? Who would you love to talk to? If somebody's listened today, who would you love to reach out to you, and how would you like them to get in touch?
So we are a structural engineering consultancy working in large scale development, basically. So anyone who's out there who obviously is working in residential, we work obviously from small to large, but our main clients are the big guys. So if anyone's got any issues with substructure or superstructure design, then feel free to contact us. It's info@ecotechengineers.co.uk. And yeah, we're always here to help, really. And I think that's where we've got to where we have, because we're big communicators, which is a bit different for engineers, I would say. So yeah, we're always here to help people on their journeys, however difficult they can be.
Love it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Wow, what a bundle of positivity Laura really was. Super successful, super humble, I'd say. What was your big takeaway from that one thing, Hayley?
The big takeaway for me was, well, there's two things. One was the thing I said, dare to dream. That's the summary of it, because I think we stop ourselves from doing that, particularly when you start in a business. You can have so many, your mind's constantly going with worries and what if this, well, mine is anyway, not everybody's mind's like this, but like worrying about absolutely everything. If there's something to worry about, I can worry about it or overthink it or whatever you want to call it. So I think there's something about trying to stop that a little bit and just letting yourself be free with where it might get to or where it might go to. And I also think sometimes we stop ourselves as people from doing that because maybe we don't believe it at the beginning as well. So there's definitely that piece around dare to dream and the vision board and how to approach all of that. That was a really big takeaway for me. The other thing, which I think is really, really important just in life, not also in business, is that nothing's fixed. Everything's fluid, everything changes. And I think as people, we get used to things and we get hung up on things and we like it like that. And then actually reality is things change. And I think it's being adaptable to that and not having, I don't want to say a fixed mindset because that's not entirely what I mean, but just like because it doesn't happen the way you think it will and that it's changed or the plan changes or whatever, then that's okay and it doesn't matter. Those were probably my two big things from what was packed full of so many one things really. As we said, we could do a whole other episode. What stood out to you most from what Laura shared?
I think everything is the same, in as much as if you want to run a marathon or you want to do something, you'd be kind of ballsy. You put that down on your vision board, 2028, I'm going to do this. And then you compress it backwards and you'd say, one thing I want to do is either join a running club or get a running coach or, XYZ, or once I've run to 5 miles, I'm going to get a running coach because I know that they can really progress me. And I think probably as a personality type for most business owners, we don't like to write those things down. We don't like to create that vision board. And I think we do feel that it's overwhelmed, and whatever kind of terminology or whatever trait we put that down to, I think it's a really, really big step as a business owner just to say, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to pay off my mortgage in 5 years. I'd love to have this. I'd love to, whether it's a small goal or a big goal, because it then gives you that ability to work it back. And then once you've worked it back, you can say, well, where was I expecting to be and where am I? And am I happier in where I am now? Or did I want to be there? What's the difference? And then you can start to compare and you can actually proactively start to look at the 6 months, the years, and start to kind of timeline it. I think a lot of business owners get caught in that trap of just kind of milling along and trying to grow the business, rather than having any kind of goals or plans or milestones in it.
Sometimes I think what stops me from having all the goal things and the vision board and all of that is, what if you don't like it when you get there? Like, I always have that in the back of my mind. What if I don't really want this? What if I just think I want it? Because you never really know if you're going to, like, how you're going to, and you kind of touched a little bit on it then. You never really know how you're going to feel on something, about something, until you're actually in it and living it. And I think that sometimes can hold, definitely talking about me, hold me back. I'm guessing it would be the same for other people. You don't want to go all out and try and do it because what if I don't like it? What if this? What if that? Comes back to that overthinking again, doesn't it? We talked a lot about confidence, or Laura, in the episode, there was an undertone throughout it about confidence in business. Do you think that confidence in yourself in business ever catches up with the reality of where your business is?
I think, again, it's a life thing. And I think it comes down to that, one day you're an engineer, the next day you're a business owner, but you're actually just the engineer and you've changed job title. And I think where Laura did really well was she reached out for help, because we're all waiting for that mentor, that guru to come and help us and show us the true path. And they are genuinely out there, but they're also waiting for you to show yourself to them. I think it's really tricky. Confidence, I think, is not something I generally lack when it comes to one-to-one interactions, or I will pretty much always back myself in a situation. But I think one of the things that I realized is often I will underprepare for things just because then I've got an excuse. I've got a way out of saying, okay, that business meeting didn't go as well as I'd hoped, but, I only spent 20 minutes doing the prep, or I didn't research it. And I think that's probably the piece that holds me back. That probably is confidence, and it's that fear of rejection, and it's coming down into it. I think maybe that's also, and we've got to take this into account, different for a male and a female because of the way that we have been raised and the way that the social norms and conventions hold it. How about yourself, Hayley?
I think it's just an ever evolving circle, because I think and again, it's probably life as well as business, but I think as you go on the journey and you get to a point, things that you didn't feel confident about, I don't know, say 6 months earlier, you do now because you've been through that and you're on that next. But then you then on to the next hurdle or the next thing. So then you wobble again. And for me, that's how it feels. It's just like an ever evolving circle. I suppose there's a confidence that comes with, I don't know, I don't really want to say this because it sounds really bad, but with being older, I think I am more confident now than I probably was in my 20s. And I definitely think that's real. But I don't think I could have done anything differently when I was younger to be more confident. So I don't know. I just feel like it's an ever evolving cycle, the confidence thing. What's one thing this episode has made you reflect about in your own business?
Definitely. So we are at the start of May 2026 as we record this, and I have got our peer group meeting next week, which is where we're going to go over our business plans and what we've done quarter to quarter. And I do need to review mine, and I do need to change a lot of the things that I thought if I do X, Y will happen, have not paid off. And again, maybe to the point I alluded to earlier, I've not really, I suppose, had the confidence or the discipline to dip back into that and really review it. And it's maybe a job. I'll probably, myself and GPT will probably go over it. I might go over it with my business coach. I might go over it with GPT. But I think you probably do need somebody sat with you to go through these, because I think it is overwhelming to go through your business plan and to be honest and real. And it's one of those where you build up to it for 17 hours or weeks or months or maybe even years, and it takes you 5 minutes to actually do. How about yourself, Haley? What are you finding yourself reflecting on?
Truthfully, I think maybe I probably need a business coach. It's something I've always resisted, not for any reason, just then, well, lots of reasons really, but I don't know, maybe the time is the right time for me to start that journey, maybe a little bit more than things I've done in the past. That's definitely something that it's made me think about. I'm going to ask Laura who her business coach is, because they sound she was very highly recommended of them, wasn't she? She taught them up and never letting them go, I think she said. So yeah, no, I think it's good. I think it's been an episode that it's kind of really, really hit home. And going back to what you were just saying about you're looking at the things when, I hope you don't mind me saying this, I can take it out. But in a few months ago, like at the start of the year, you were really excited that, because you'd done so much work in preparing what you were going to do, and you'd had it. You were like, it's October, and I've done it, and I'm ready, and da 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 da. And I think from what you've just said, it's that it's the same scenario as the meeting, isn't it? You don't want to prepare for the meeting and then go, well, the meeting didn't go well. Da, 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 da. Don't want to go back and actually look at what you were hoping for, because perhaps it has or hasn't quite worked the way that you thought, but you just need to bite the bullet and do it. Sorry, I've gone off on a complete tangent now.
I think I'm now in a public therapy session, aren't I? But I also think that maybe we do keep that in, because I think that our personality traits are shared, and I think we're all stronger in certain areas and weaker in other areas. But I think you're having the same sense of overwhelm towards getting a business coach or joining a peer group that I did. And I think what we've just seen there is in Laura, someone who's just bit the bullet, gone for it, and been very successful. And I think a lot of us as business owners now are thinking, why didn't I bite the bullet? Why am I not doing that? So I do think I think you've got the same issues that I've got, that we've all got. And I think it does relate back to that confidence, and having the confidence to say, I need help. I'm going to reach out for some help, which is the least British thing I think that you can do. We're all taught to soldier on, to carry on, to persevere, and to come out the other end. And I think that is a beautiful note to end it on. So thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We hope you found one thing to help your business move forward today.
And if you did, let us know. And please like and share this episode with another business owner who you think might find it useful.